After a disastrous second half against Brighton on Sunday, I, for one, feel like I'm still licking my wounds. Was that second half a one-off and I should just get over it? Or does it show an underlying problem with the mentality of our young, exciting squad? I've asked Jorri back onto the show to either calm me down or add to my fears that this could be a problem that we encounter time and time again this season. How are you doing, Jorri?
I'm all right. I think you coined it pretty well there. We're still licking our wounds for sure.
And
Uh,
is
yeah.
it something because we spoke at halftime during the watch along on We Are Tottenham TV, and we were both, let's just put it this way, we were both feeling very confident at that moment,
Mhm.
and then it all went wrong. We're like, what happened? Is it too easy to just say what James Maddison said, and it's a mentality problem, or is there something structural in there as well?
I mean, yeah, it is. It must be a mentality problem for sure. But I think like this underlying thing that we happens under every manager seems, I mean, must be structural in terms of the culture in the running of Tottenham. I think there is a lack of pressure towards the players when it comes to this kind of stuff. That I mean, having thought about it since the game, that's kind of the conclusion I've come down to. I've often thought this before. I think. Without going into the whole Levy and all of that, I do think Tottenham is too much of a corporate thing and too much of a company versus a club. So the players probably feel that, but subconsciously they feel less pressure than maybe funny enough, like Liverpool or many of the other clubs we want to kind of be in and around. So yeah, but I was shocked and surprised to see it actually. Because the famous super chat that I sent during the game, and jinxed everything and all of that is
We both jinxed it, Jory. We both
yeah,
jinxed it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But like I also said, like jinxing is only when you're not quite there, and we're not quite there. So, and I knew that, but what I also know, and I find myself now being one of the few defending ants, whereas I had gotten a lot of stick for seeing structural issues and stuff like that, which ants has addressed really basically everything, I would
Yeah.
say. And so I was really happy about that. And the other thing, and the reason why I sent that super chat, were basically I said in that super chat that the players fully get it now, and Ange is here to stay, is because for me, I've seen enough now that I see that they completely understand what they need to do. Um, However, that second half, they decided not to do it,
Yeah.
or at least they decided not to do what they need to do. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think Romero was a big, big factor in all of it. Both his attitude and the way he played as well. I'm not saying he had a bad attitude. I just think he was laxed, and probably his mind is on Argentina
Yeah.
too early. So yeah.
Is there the thing that I guess surprises me, because I don't disagree with anything you say, but the thing that I
Mm.
guess surprises me is it's almost like with the squad being so young, and Ange has been very open about, this is a problem. He said it from the start that there's a problem with the mentality at this club. I'm here to change it, and it's going to take time, and
Mm.
there are going to be bumps in the road. So I understand that. And if it had happened the week before, almost like when we're at Man United, who have loads of experienced players, we're at Old Trafford, say we were 2-0 up at halftime and then we lose 3-2, you're almost like, okay, I mean, we expect that. But this is
Exactly.
Brighton, and they're a young team as well. And like I
Mm.
said in my video yesterday, it's not like the theatre of dreams. It's not like a huge, it's not like St James's Park or the Emirates. It's kind of just like quite a friendly atmosphere at Brighton, even when they're on top of you.
Mm.
So the fact that we collapsed like a deck of cards so easily is the thing that kind of worries me a bit more.
Yeah, I heard you talk about that before, Barnaby, and I thought about it as well. I think actually, to be honest, I think maybe we're at a point where where they might actually feed off a little bit of that adversity in the stadium.
Hmm.
Let's hope so, because we're going to Galatasaray and
Yeah.
Roma and all kinds of difficult
Well,
places, you know.
Ibrox. I think we've got Roma at home, haven't we? But Ibrox will be huge for
Oh,
Rangers, won't it?
yeah, yeah, and that as well. Yeah, okay. I thought we were going to Roma. Okay,
You could be right. I'm not
but
100% sure.
no, me neither. But anyway, I mean, the thing, I think what also happened, if we compare it to the United game, was that the level of or not physicality, the level of fitness needed to finish the game at Brighton was higher than what was required of the United game. And also, I mean, the substitution, you know, we got to give Brighton credit, and Brighton is a better team than Man United now,
They
you
are.
know.
That's
So,
true.
so what we're still seeing, which surprised me a little bit, is that we can't get over the hump when it comes to the best teams, you know, and we need to put Brighton in there. Um, uh, you know, I don't know
Is there
why.
sorry, Joey, just to say,
Yeah.
is there an element is there an element of a worry that this whole thing that Ange saying, when things go bad, we just have to do it better. He can't be the only manager in the game who refuses to ever tweak anything. And he had to deal with the Brighton manager who's 31 years old. He made some tactical tweaks and it affected
Mhm.
us. So
Mhm.
surely at that point, actually, to be fair, you've said that he has tweaked things this season structurally that, I would certainly say that our set pieces have improved both attacking and defensively.
Massive.
And
Yeah.
we look a lot less, we still look a bit porous on the transition, but certainly less worrisome than last season. I'll agree with that. But
Yeah,
he
it's
needs
still
to
shaky.
react though to when he sees that Brighton are doing something different. For instance,
Mm.
Mitoma, it was clear from like the 30th minute of the game that Mitoma, if Brighton were gonna do anything, it was gonna be through Mitoma. So he has to at
Mm.
least say to Brennan Johnson, you have to be properly doubling up on him tight and worry
Mm.
and worry about him more. And that goal that the third one where we're all blaming Romero, actually behind Romero, if the ball had gone to the back post, Brennan Johnson was just standing on about the 18-yard line, just watching it as well. We're always so free at the back post.
Yeah, and at that point there was many things. Like I thought Bentancur was pretty good in the first half, but then exactly for that period, he just got worse and worse when the Brighton were scoring the goals, and it seemed like the players were signaling to each other like, I've given up, you know, can you
Mm,
like, I'm not gonna get in there. But I do agree with the whole tactical thing, and I think what I saw was that now in the transitions, wherever they did it on the wings or the or through the middle or whatever, they now, in contrast to the first half, they managed to get overloads in the transition moment, you know,
mm,
and that was what we were stopping in the first half, and vice versa. When we tried to play out, they also blocked us completely. So they really did a job on us transitionally. I feel like in general, when we get into these shaky periods, I want to see two guys sitting when we're on the look. I want to basically get Madison in there or something to play the double pivot for just for a bit,
for
just
five
to
minutes.
shore up. Yeah, just to shore up that we don't get turned over in that transition, you know. And that was really, I mean, we didn't really get to a transition. We got turned over just as soon as we touched the ball, really. When they came out like they really wanted it, but then, you know, the big question is also, how could they be so motivated and dominant in the first half and so unmotivated in the second half? Like, I've speculated, did something happen in the
Mm.
dressing room? But
How could it though after such a positive first half?
exactly,
It's hard to imagine them going in and I guess Spurs were winning when Lloris and Sonny had that issue, so it can happen.
it can happen, yeah, and it could be something innocent that's just, you know, and trying to ask for a tweak or seeing because we did see we or kind of danger moments in the first half, but and maybe somebody wasn't ready to hear it or took offense to it or they in general just thought they were playing good enough and didn't deserve any criticism at that point. I don't know. This is speculation, but I'm like for sure the motivation, like that's the main thing, the motivation between the first half and the second half, what happened there. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's the players, but the primary job or one of the primary jobs of the manager is to motivate the players, of course. So and you certainly don't do it by standing with your hands in your pocket and shaking your
Mm,
head at the sideline. So
mm,
that is troublesome. But I think you mentioned it. I think that moment was now you guys find your way out. That is
mm.
not here. You need to figure it out now. And um,
But
uh,
that's only all well and good if they actually do it, isn't it? Because then
exactly,
if they don't figure it out, it makes you look like you don't care.
yeah. But also on the other hand, like it wasn't dissimilar in Coventry in that regard, I thought. So what also can come from it is that they do learn a little bit from it and they do take more and more responsibility, and that's what I hope and think Gans is trying to do.
Yeah.
But the thing again, Barnaby, that comes is like you don't have the same time in this league as any other, So and you don't have like the pressures piling on the day after, not like slowly building and yeah, a lot of people are kind of like I say, I find it kind of funny, since I've been coming on your channel, I've gotten quite a few critical comments, which is fair enough. I absolutely, and I've seen you've gotten that as well when
Mhm.
you ask these questions, and that's just how it should be. But now I find myself almost to the same crowd defending Ange, because for me, being a more kind of sit back analyzing type, I'm not saying I'm an expert or anything, apart from all of us who watch every game are kind of experts,
Yeah.
really. But I'm finding that because now with my cold logic, I see that the players absolutely understand it as a tactical phenomenon, as a formation phenomenon, as a movement, and so on, and how they cover each other. They stop doing it in the second half, and that's maybe when we're into the culture and into, yeah, just
It
what the players kind of feel is the expectation in this club, So yeah.
it was rabbit in the headlights, wasn't it? It was like rabbits in the headlights.
Mhm. Mhm.
They conceded early and it came from kind
Mhm.
of two defensive mistakes and suddenly they were like, "Oh, wait, that's not what we were expecting. We are expecting just to easily get the third goal and roll this lot over." And
Mhm.
from then it wasn't just that Spurs couldn't play the way they did in the first half. Brighton didn't let us play in the first half, and it was like you mentioned, it was just a complete role reversal where they had maybe like I'd say in the first half, Spurs were probably 20% more on it than Brighton were. And then in the second half, Brighton were 20% more on it than Spurs were. And it's very rare that you see such a turnaround. One of the things that you mentioned that I'm really glad you mentioned because I wanted to talk about this as well is it now, it's obviously very difficult for these 2 weeks. Got to wait for that West Ham game. And actually, I saw the stat. This is the third international break in a row where we've lost just before.
Mhm.
It's really
Mhm.
horrible. But is
Mhm.
there a possibility that going forward, this will be something that they are able to always say if they're leading at halftime? Don't forget what happened at Brighton. This can change so quickly. Remember how that felt and try and find a positive out of this, the way that Madison talked about in his Instagram post. I mean, I remember a thing from years ago, right, when Martin Jol was manager, and there were a few occasions early in his tenureship where we would concede late goals having been winning. And I remember
Mhm.
Martin Jol coming out in the press and actually saying, listen, we've got to learn how to shut these games out. Now, I don't think Ange is ever going to shut games out necessarily, but
Um,
with these young teams and these young squads, it is almost like being at school, isn't it? You have to learn from your mistakes and you have to learn from your, the bad times. And I'm choosing at this point, or I'm asking you, I guess, is that
Mm-hmm.
something that maybe we'll benefit from down the line where we'll be 2-0 up at halftime of a game and then maybe they concede the third goal and suddenly instead of this kind of rabbit in the headlights look that we saw against Brighton, suddenly they'll find their way out of it because they'll be so nervous and scared about feeling the way that they do right now.
Yeah, but I think the way out of it, what Ange is teaching them, the way out of it is, and that's the whole I don't have a plan B and all of that, and that's who we are, mate, and all of these annoying memes that we have to suffer through now because Ange says these things, but that's the whole. So the way out of these games is to play our game even like the number one thing
Yeah.
is to keep the press up, do not relent on the press. As soon as we do that, we don't have much. And also being a young squad, Conte wouldn't be able to get the games over the line with this squad. That's in the nature of all young squads is
Yeah.
that they're inconsistent. They don't keep the focus. So playing a very kind of stingy, low-scoring tactical game is not an option with these guys. So the only really option we have is to outscore, or not even outscore so much, but out attack the other team. So as soon as we lose the ball, and also remember that this has been giving us the most joy is actually getting the ball into the feet of the opposition for a quick turnover, and that was
Mm.
actually what we did again and
Yeah.
again in the first half.
The
So,
counter
so
press. Yeah.
yeah, so we shouldn't be scared of relinquishing some possession, as long as we keep that press really, really intense. And then the question also becomes, is that a viable plan in general for the Premier League, where the fitness levels are the highest in any sport in the world,
Yeah.
And we've seen Liverpool struggle with that. They managed it 2 seasons maybe,
Mm.
and then after that it was a struggle. And this is definitely something that's the problem with these kind of front foot systems, is that they are very, very costly. It's very difficult to motivate the players for any extended period,
Yeah, and you're talking about the medium to long term, but actually at the moment it feels like we're so kind of early into the project that it's still affecting us after kind of 60 minutes of every game,
Yeah.
55 to 65 minutes of every game. You can almost visibly see the drop off. And I wonder if there's a little part of you've got to think that the Brighton manager at half time is probably saying, yeah, you're 2-0 down, but they will fade in the next kind of 10 minutes. So if you
Yeah.
can get a goal here, then they're
Yeah.
going to be on their knees. And that's exactly what happened. And that is a bit of a scary prospect.
Hmm. Exactly. And maybe, I mean, maybe that first half, I mean, I didn't see anything that was particularly more exhausting than other games
Mm.
in that first half, but maybe there was something to it. Maybe Brighton actually played a energy conserving type game there,
Rope a
and
dope.
yeah, exactly, and did that from the start, or that was the plan from the start. I don't know, but for me. The question, I mean, exactly like I was talking mid to long term, but it's exactly every time this happens, the players lose confidence in that Anne's way of playing. But even though they lose confidence in that Anne's way of playing, they now intellectually, football wise, understand how to play it. Where earlier, just 4, 5, 6 games, it wasn't quite there. But
Mm.
then I saw enough in a row that now they completely understand. Now it's so fluid, and they're able to mix it up in such a way that there's no kind of one solution to block us out and all of this. So I'm not that worried, because I think they will pretty quickly understand they don't have any choice except to press and
Mm.
keep the attack going. That's the only out they have in an Ange system, and that's what they're going to be able to do. Question is, is the fitness there? I like it's difficult to see. I mean, the only guy I can say that for sure, maybe two, maybe Porro and Kulu are the two
Mm.
guys.
Mm.
Yeah, they definitely have it.
Machines.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know about the rest, and for example, Udogi has been getting a lot of stick. I think it's really harsh, he was the hardest work, like he had the hardest job on the field, I thought, and had to do the most on his own.
But he also
And
was
it,
in. He also got injured the week before. Like
yeah, yeah.
maybe we should have brought Jed Spence in for that game. I think.
Yeah, and actually, I said maybe it was in the call in afterwards. I said I don't know what Ange could have done to in terms of substitutions, but
Mm.
actually, I forgot about Spence. Of course, he should have put Spence in pretty much earlier. If nothing else, just to get more energy on that because we were having a lot of problems on both wings. So
Yeah. Can I just ask you
um,
before we finish up? Can I just ask you
yeah.
that thing that I mentioned earlier? Am I going mad, or are Spurs just far more open at the back post from crosses than any team I've seen in Premier League history? Or is it just because I watch Spurs and I don't see everyone else? I mean, I get it. I totally
Yeah.
understand it. I totally understand it defensively that always the biggest danger is narrow, so the fullback has to come narrow. But it strikes me that they come far too narrow. They don't even look over their shoulders a lot of the time.
Yeah. I completely agree, and like for me, it's I don't know why, I mean, I could even accept zonal defending in that regard when it's as long as everybody is clear on who is then the player in their zone, and then stick to that player
Mm,
because I feel more often than not Romero is trying to kind of organize it, and then himself kind of leaves the hole open. And I felt like whether it be set pieces or like in this game, it was just in general the open play. There was so many times that the whole shape of our defense, which wasn't good to start with,
mm.
got completely shattered when Romero lunged out and
Yeah.
timed completely wrong, and he did that about three times. Two of them times ended in goals, and then the third time he was standing behind
Mm.
the guy that only he could have basically covered in that moment,
Mm.
So
Something's got to
yeah,
change. Something's got to change with that
yeah.
because it's not just as simple as we're giving away chances. We're actually giving away a lot of goals from that this season. So I think that's for me. That's got to be the next tweak. I'm going to ask you a difficult question, Jory. Right now, even though I'm in a negative like state of mind after that second half, I feel like
Mhm.
I might have said it in yesterday's video. I feel like we are currently in the group with Chelsea, Newcastle, probably Man United will turn it around at some point, and then maybe the likes of Brighton for those positions between fourth and eighth to end the season. Do you agree with that? Where do you think, you've said you think that the players are now kind of more across, they understand the muscle memory of Ange ball. We
Mhm.
did go on a good run. We won five in a row. We've got five of the next six games or four of the next five games at home. Do you
Mhm.
feel more confident that Spurs could push towards that fourth place? Because for me, Liverpool, City, and Arsenal are way ahead of everyone. Do you
Mhm.
think we can push for that fourth place, or do you think that's looking more and more unlikely?
And I think, Barnaby, I think the click is here, and I think the mentality is still work to be done. The
Mm,
culture, the mentality, the dressing room, but the playing, the formation shape, understanding, it's all here. It's not, and that's why I believe it. We're gonna see a lot of progress now, upwards progress. So I'm very hopeful, and I actually think we have a decent shot at fourth. I'm not saying we're getting it, but I think we have a decent shot at fourth. But in general, Barnaby, I've been thinking about this as well. I think a lot of the problem, and this also comes into the fan base a lot, is that in so many regards towards the on-field things, we are basically a mid-table club.
Yeah.
But our club in every other regard is a top club, you know. So
Mm.
this is also a huge problem for the fan base and for the club itself, is that you cannot be acting and performing mid-table when you have the stadium, when you're the highest earners, and so on and so on. We need to start wearing the right clothes for our job, you know, and I think we have the squad definitely to be up there, but you know how long it's going to take to completely kill out these mentality issues. I don't know. For me, also, I actually saw one thing when the game was starting. I saw a close up of Kulu before the first whistle, and I saw like he is so looking forward to it. He was like a
Yeah.
kid in like candy shop, and I thought like it might be too much. You know what we actually need to get from these players is that they become, and Ange often talks about this, do not be too happy about the wins. Do not be too down about the losses. Just stay even and just do your job. Just focus on that. Be single-minded
Yeah.
on what we are. And so I'm speaking Ange all the way, you know, and I agree in that regard. If we're gonna do this, that's what we need to do.
Yeah.
the I've always been doubtful in general. I mean, I was doubtful with Pep even. I before Pep when Pep lost played without a striker and stuff like that. I said, yeah, I'm not sure Pep would be able to have all this success without all that the money behind them, you know, and just the tactical brilliance of that season. I saw and I knew Pep was a tactical genius. That wasn't the new thing. It was just this idea of ideological football versus more practical football. Pep versus an Ancelotti or whatever. I've always been fairly doubtful about that, and I don't know, but I would love to see it, and I know that in terms of our football understanding in the squad, it's there. So now we're gonna ride that ride and see where it takes us, you know. So
Jory, I'm loving that positivity. I also, for one, just, and I think I said this yesterday as well, I'm glad actually now that we have a manager with experience behind him. And I know it's not Premier League experience, but it's the experience of having been through these moments. And so he can
mhm.
say to his players, even though, he was pretty, forthright saying how unacceptable it was, when they come back from the international break, he can say to them, look, this is just a bump in the road. This is what happens. I was incredibly excited by the first half. You've got it. You got it. Play like that against West Ham. We'll turn them over and we'll put in a good performance. And I'm loving your positivity, Jory, and I think we're going to beat West Ham 4-0. I've just decided it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the show, mate. Really appreciate it. Guys at home, please do
My
give this
pleasure.
video a like. Press subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner if you want to see daily Tottenham Hotspur and transfer content from across the Premier League. And even though this is obviously a very difficult couple of weeks to be a Spurs fan because of that result, don't worry. As I said, West Ham next at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We're going to roll them over easily. Come on, you Spurs.